The Georgia Bulldogs hold the record for most draftees in a single NFL draft, with 15 in 2022. In 2025, that record could be broken. The Ohio State Buckeyes have a stacked roster for 2024, and in this video, I'm going to dive into it and determine if they can break the record. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I'm releasing draft content all year long. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to Ohio State Can Break a Record in the 2025 NFL Draft. Enjoy. Beginning on offense, this quarterback room isn't anything special, but it is an improvement from last year. There are two unique scenarios that can play out in this quarterback room, resulting in one of these quarterbacks possibly getting drafted. The one that is more likely is that Will Howard has the best season of his collegiate career. He is currently ranked 659th on the consensus big board, which, funny enough, is lower than the backup Devin Brown. Howard is a grad transfer from Kansas State, and in his 4 years with the Wildcats, he completed 58.8% of his passes for 5,786 passing yards, 48 touchdowns, and 25 interceptions. He was also a big part of the run game throughout his time with Kansas State, rushing for 921 yards and 19 touchdowns. His best season came in 2023, where he accounted for over 3,000 yards, 34 total touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So as I said, Howard needs to have his best collegiate season this upcoming year if he wants a chance at getting drafted. Yet, from what coaches have been saying, he is due for a big year in 2024. An anonymous Big 12 defensive coach told Bruce Feldman that he thinks Howard is quote-unquote going to have a monster year. All of a sudden, he's going to have this great supporting cast around here. For a big guy, he is pretty athletic and can run. I don't think he has a crazy strong arm, but he is very accurate and very smart. Which is why the Buckeyes offense is going to look crazy, specifically the run game, which I'll dive into a little later. The second scenario that can play out for the Buckeyes is if Howard goes down with an injury and Devin Brown takes his spot and balls out. The redshirt sophomore is a former 4-star recruit who hasn't particularly shown huge flashes up to this point, but the opportunities haven't been great either. In the Cotton Bowl against Mizzou last season, Brown only completed 4 of 6 passes for 20 yards and ran 3 times for -12 yards before injuring his ankle in the first half. Brown's injury was probably part of the reason why they brought in Howard, especially given that Howard is a one and done. So, there is a possibility that one of these prospects can make the jump and become an NFL draftee, but as of now, none of them are draftable prospects according to Mock Draft Database. Let's move on. Now on to the skill players of this team, where we have several prospects to examine here. Let's begin with the running backs, where we find the best backfield in the country. A running back duo of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, along with some fantastic depth, compiles a phenomenal running back room. Beginning with Judkins, who is ranked as the #1 running back in this upcoming class and 29th overall, is a transfer from Ole Miss, and he rushed for 2,725 yards and 31 touchdowns while with the Rebels. He's great at breaking tackles, has a great pop after the handoff, and has viable vision for the NFL. He leads all Power 5 running backs since 2022 in rushing yards, forced missed tackles, and yards after contact. And those 2 seasons are his first 2 seasons. And then we have the first of several surprising returns to this squad. We're talking about Travion Henderson. The 49th ranked player and 3rd ranked running back led the Buckeyes in rushing yards in 2021 and 2023, with 2022 being a year where he suffered a foot injury and was not playing at 100%. Henderson is extremely good in the open field, where he possesses great lateral agility, explosiveness, and open field vision. Behind the line, his vision is good as well, and you just can't give him space or else he's going to run off with it. And even the depth behind him is solid, with junior running back Dallin Hayden being ranked 336th. And honestly, that's not the tip of the iceberg. Those 2 running backs make up 2 of the 3 skill position players currently projected to be drafted. But a lot of potential pops up as we discuss the wide receivers here. The second highest ranked player on this Ohio State squad is Emeka Egbuka, another senior who decided to return to school. With 1,857 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns in his 3 seasons as a Buckeye, he's one of the most interesting prospects in this class with some amazing route running abilities, but some deteriorating production. The 2 other starters as it stands are Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, 2 guys who are not eligible for the 2025 NFL Draft. The other guy who has potential is Jaden Ballard, who needs a miracle if he wants a shot at carving out a starting role in this offense. And even when we go over to tight end, I don't think any of them will get drafted unless they can make a Cade Stover-esque name for themselves. Gee Scott Jr. has 140 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in 3 seasons, and Will Kasmarek went for over 500 yards and 2 touchdowns in only 2 seasons, but with Ohio University. This positional competition will be fun to watch this upcoming season, but as it stands, it doesn't seem like either tight end is going to be drafted. But there are a few guys in the trenches, so let's talk about them. Only 2 of their starting linemen are in the current order on Mock Draft Database, but it's Ohio State. They only had 4 draftees in their 2024 NFL Draft, none of them being O-linemen, but that's primarily because so many people returned to school. But from 2021 to 2023, they had 7 linemen get drafted into the league, including 4 of them during the first 2 days of the draft. So let's go from left to right, primarily because the 2 draftees are on the left side. At left tackle, senior Josh Simmons played in 12 games last season after transferring in from San Diego State, putting his nice pass blocking on display using his good athleticism and hand technique. At the moment, he sits as the 72nd ranked prospect on the consensus big board and the 7th best offensive tackle overall. At left guard, senior Donovan Jackson has been a cornerstone of the Buckeyes offense over the last 2 seasons, playing a total of 1,652 snaps at left guard. He's allowed only 3 sacks in those 2 seasons, but his play strength and ability to explode off the line to strike a defender off their footing gives him the ability to block the run as well, even if he's not as efficient in it. At the moment, he sits at 64th overall. Those are the 2 draftees that are currently sitting on the consensus big board, but there's more. At center, Alabama transfer Seth McLaughlin slots in as the team's starting center. You may remember him as the guy who made several bad snaps against Michigan in the Rose Bowl, but you should remember him as a guy who fits the Buckeyes scheme perfectly as a zone run blocker that pops off the snap super well. McLaughlin is ranked all the way back in 671st, but I think he can prove himself as a potential late day 3 pick this season. At right guard, redshirt sophomore Carson Hinsman struggled in over 700 snaps last season, but he was a redshirt freshman playing center, which he clearly wasn't natural at. Hopefully a position switch to right guard will bring him success. He is currently ranked 330th on the consensus big board. And finally, at right tackle, Josh Fryer is another guy way down the consensus ranks, but at the same time, 2 backup linemen are ahead of him. The 5th-year senior played pretty well in 825 snaps at right tackle last year and looks to continue that success into 2024. These rankings are destined to change, especially seeing how low Josh Fryer is on the big board. But as of right now, only Jackson and Simmons are projected to be drafted, with Hinsman not too far behind. So to recap, 5 offensive players, according to Mock Draft Database, are projected to be drafted and are inside the current draft order when looking at the big board. And many others have the potential. But we see even more draftees and even more potential as we go on to the defense. Let's begin on this stacked defensive line, where nearly every player who's starting is projected to be drafted. Ohio State's biggest rivals, the Michigan Wolverines, had an insanely stacked defensive line in the 2023 season, With Jalen Harrell and Chris Jenkins getting drafted in 2024, along with Braden McGregor being a valued UDFA, and all 4 starting D linemen this year projected to be drafted in 2025, the Wolverines have set a standard for defensive lines in the Big Ten. While not as talented as the 2023 Michigan defensive line, Ohio State isn't too far behind. Let's start with this super talented edge group, beginning with JT Tuimoloau. A projected first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, he decided to return to school for one more season. His production doesn't look like a projected first-round pick's production, but his physicality and awareness as both a pass rusher and a run defender give him heavy stock nonetheless. Just think of Chop Robinson. He had mediocre production, but went 23rd overall in this 2024 draft. Similarly, Tuimoloau is 22nd on the consensus big board. And then there's Jack Sawyer, who I wasn't a huge fan of him when I watched him, but I can't ignore his potential. Also opting into his final season of eligibility instead of entering the draft, he's not only a more productive pass rusher than his counterpart, but he's also a better run defender at the line of scrimmage. He's right behind JT in the consensus rankings, being 23rd on the board. This interior defensive line group isn't nearly as strong as the edge group, but it's also so hard to beat the best edge group in the country. Only one of these guys is inside the current draft order, and that is senior Tyleik Williams. He's been a significant contributor to the Buckeyes since 2021 and has played over 1,000 snaps with the team so far. His great combination of physical and athletic traits allow for him to be a threat on the inside, even through double teams. His consensus ranking sits at 32nd. And if we add in hypothetical compensatory picks, then 5th-year senior Ty Hamilton is also projected to be drafted in 2025. While he's never particularly impressed as a Buckeyes defensive tackle, he's been a staple and a leader to the group. Besides, this 2024 season should be his first full-time starting year with the team. He's currently ranked 231st on the consensus board, just 7 spots off of the current draft order. Along with these 4 guys, senior Tywone Malone is also on the board as well. He didn't get much playing time last year after transferring in from Ole Miss, but Michael Hall Jr.'s departure should allow him to get more PT. And that's just the start of this defense. Before we get into the stacked secondary, let's talk about the linebackers and take a little break here. Losing Tommy Eichenberg is pretty significant for this team. He was a leader for the Buckeyes defense, playing a total of 1,798 snaps in his final 3 seasons with the team. I'm not trying to say that this linebacker room will take a significant step backward after the loss of Eichenberg, because this room truly has a good amount of upside. But losing that significant experience is where you allow the unproven to come in and try to prove themselves. This begins with CJ Hicks. The junior weak side linebacker has 75 career defensive snaps in his 2 seasons with the Buckeyes. In those 75 snaps, he's registered 4 tackles on 4 defensive stops. Not much else. He's the former 10th ranked player in the class of 2022, but it's currently difficult to try and see what this guy's outlook is. But it's just difficult to predict this guy's outlook. But he's got an experienced vet lining up alongside him this year. 5th-year senior Cody Simon. In his 4 seasons with the Buckeyes, he has compiled over 1,000 snaps on 15 starts, and is for sure going to take over that starting role full time. He's a phenomenal tackler who showcases some good awareness and composure in the run game, and with this good communication, he's sure to be the Eichenberg replacement this upcoming season. Those are likely to be the starting linebackers going into the 2024 season, but if one of them doesn't play well, they do have a decent replacement ready. Junior Sonny Styles is listed as a safety, but with his 6'4", 235-pound frame, he plays all over the field. Ranked 52nd on the consensus board, he's played most of his snaps in the box with 201, 174 snaps at free safety, and 171 snaps at slot corner. That versatility, mixed in with his great run support and physical play style, will take him places not just with Ohio State, but in the NFL as well. And as I said, Styles is listed as a safety. So let's transition that into talking about this elite defensive back group, full of returning stars and up-and-coming young studs. There's a lot to unpack here. Beginning with cornerback 1 in senior Denzel Burke. Given how the cornerback class played out in the 2024 draft, I don't think he would have been drafted in the first round, but he was sure projected to do so. He had his best year of coverage in 2023, allowing only 25 catches for 277 yards and 1 touchdown, tagged with his 1 pick and 7 pass breakups. His great fluidity and transitions out of his back pedal combined with his great ball skills to give us a projected first rounder. His success up to this point has made him the highest ranked Buckeye on the consensus big board. He's currently ranked number 18. Lining up at corner on the other side is Davison Igbinosun, a former 4-star recruit who shined as a sophomore starting corner in 2023. He's got some great measurables for the position, and while his ball production doesn't pop out at you, he's able to close on receivers so fast to the point where they don't even throw the ball his way. In 2023, he allowed 36 catches on a 50% catch rate for 354 yards and 5 touchdowns. Obviously, those 5 touchdowns are concerning, but he's only allowing 9.8 yards per reception. He's currently ranked 93rd on the consensus big board. And then in the slot, we have another top 100 guy in Jordan Hancock. Ranked nicely at number 69, he might be a little lean, but his anticipation is unheard of at the nickel position. He's got the instincts to identify the route and the explosiveness to click and close fast. Out of the 3 starting corners just mentioned, he allowed the lowest NFL passer rating in 2023, allowing a 62.0 passer rating. And that is just the cornerback room. 3 top 100 prospects at a single position. And we kick off this safety room with not a top 100 player, but another potential draftee in Lathan Ransom. He's currently ranked 171st on the big board, and I briefly talked about him last year and his run support, efficiency, and impact. He plays downhill well and doesn't give up on the play until the end of the whistle. He pulled out of the draft to improve his stock, as he was likely a late day 3 pick in the 2024 draft. I've already discussed Sonny Styles, but even if he does strictly stay at safety, he won't get a lot of playing time. That's because Caleb Downs just came to town. While Downs isn't draft eligible in 2025, he has the upside to be the best defender on this Buckeyes team in 2024 and be a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. And that's about it for this Ohio State Buckeyes team. They have 13 prospects currently inside the current draft order on the consensus big board, which isn't enough to break the record, but that is super close. They just need 2 more prospects to tie the record set by the Georgia Bulldogs. But at this moment, it doesn't look like they'll break the record. If you need a recap, here are the 13 prospects that are projected to get drafted as talked about in my last video. Cornerback Denzel Burke. Wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. Edge JT Tuimoloau. Edge Jack Sawyer. Running back Quinshawn Judkins. Interior defensive lineman Tyleek Williams. Running back Travion Henderson. Linebacker safety hybrid Sonny Styles. Interior offensive lineman Donovan Jackson. Cornerback Jordan Hancock. Offensive tackle Josh Simmons. Cornerback Davison Igbinosun, I probably said that wrong, and safety Lathan Ransom. Well, that was my report on the 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes. Do you think they will break the record? Let me know in the comment section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.